If you've been following the news, you've probably heard all about the rapid transition to electric vehicles happening in the automotive industry. Legacy brands and EV startups alike are pumping out new battery-powered models at a breakneck pace. But here's the reality check: dealerships across the United States are finding themselves overwhelmed by an ever-growing inventory of unsold EVs that customers just aren't buying. What's causing this sudden pileup of electric vehicles on dealer lots? Is the EV revolution starting to stall out? In this video, we're going to dive deep into the 7 key reasons contributing to the slowdown in EV adoption. From stubbornly high prices and range anxiety to production challenges and reliability issues, we'll unpack all the reasons why consumers are hesitating to make the switch to electric. This dynamic is squeezing car dealerships caught in the crossfire as they struggle to meet aggressive sales targets set by automakers while also failing to convince cautious buyers. Most of the dealerships are flooded with EVs in 2024, and if you wonder why, we present to you 7 key reasons. The first reason is that prices are still too high. The stage of early adopters has officially ended, and the rest of the population isn't willing to pay premium prices for the sake of zero emissions. For the common consumer, EVs are still way too expensive. On average, a typical car purchase in 2023 was around $48,000, while in the case of electric cars, it was pretty close to $60,000. That's still a pretty big difference, especially if we consider that interest rates are also way higher than they used to be. In other words, for buyers of new cars, loans cost a lot, and they don't need additional expenses. With that in mind, it doesn't surprise that the slow sellers, those with the highest market day supply, are the most luxurious EVs, such as the Porsche Taycan, which starts at around $92,000 but is usually paid in 6 figures. That model has a 239 market day supply, and it's followed by a few more luxurious models like the Mercedes EQS SUV. High prices are definitely one of the reasons, but not the only one. Just take a look at mainstream EVs; they're piling up as well, particularly the Mustang Mach-E, with a market day supply of over 177,000 units sitting on dealer lots across the US these days. Even well-established names such as the Nissan Leaf are slow sellers, with an above-average 161 market day supply. The second reason is that long journeys are still the main concern from a buyer's perspective. There are still too many question marks about EVs. It's not just about high prices, it's also for practical reasons, starting from the fact that EVs still can't compete with traditional ICE cars in terms of autonomy. At best, customers may count on a little bit over 300 miles, which sets many limitations when it comes to long journeys. EVs may be a great solution for short distances, for things like daily commuting. On the other hand, planning a long trip can easily turn into a nightmare, as you always have to think a few steps ahead and have recharging in mind, which is not just time-consuming but also quite tricky in terms of logistics. For these reasons, it doesn't surprise that among EV owners, a vast majority still own one or more cars with internal combustion engines. Simply said, relying solely on EVs doesn't make any sense at the moment. The third reason is that EVs are growing significantly slower than expected. If you check the statements from Biden's officials, as well as some car makers, from just a few years ago, it seemed like everyone shared the same level of optimism for electric cars. They were all pretty sure that the most radical transition in automotive history would go smoothly in a pretty short period. That's why the government expected 2/3 of new cars to be all electric by 2032. The only problem is that these expectations and predictions weren't based on adequate research. Instead, they were based on momentum, because back in the day, EVs were on a big swing, mainly because of so-called early adopters, tech enthusiasts, and wealthy consumers who ran to get their high-tech wonders. But now, when it's time for common consumers to act, things are not going as smoothly as everyone expected. After a couple of years of year-over-year growth of nearly 100%, last year showed a new trend of slowing down. EV share eventually got close to 8% of the total market, but far from the expected pace. Now, in 2024, the growth continues to slow down. In January, year-over-year growth dropped to 40%. On the other hand, car makers, both legacy brands and startups, are pushing EVs hard. The production is greater than ever, so you may presume where all this leads. Supply is significantly higher compared to the current demand, and consequently, lots are full of EVs, while dealers have a hard time selling battery electric cars. The fourth reason is production challenges. As we've just mentioned, the EVs are piling up on dealer lots so much so that the market supply is currently way over 100 days on average. Of course, car makers are aware that EVs are slow sellers, and things can change overnight, and for that reason, some of them already cut production for this year. The best example is the all-electric F-150, with production cut to half of what was planned for this year. But on the other hand, some car makers are stacking up on new EVs no matter the slow sales, and the reasons are actually pretty simple. They're making supply just in case because the production process of electric cars is anything but ideal. Constant troubles with supply chains, especially when it comes to raw materials and battery suppliers, along with the fact that production lines are anything but optimized, are the key reasons why many car makers produce way more EVs than they can sell. Because you never know when the production is going to stall for some reason, and once again, dealers are the ones who suffer the most. The fifth reason is that the charging network is also a big concern. EVs are piling up on dealer lots because even those who consider such a purchase hesitate, and one of the main reasons why they hesitate is the charging network, which is still far from perfect. From the user's perspective, this means a whole set of limitations. First of all, there aren't enough chargers, even in urban areas. Then, there's the time-consuming factor, because not all of the chargers on public stations are fast chargers. Finally, the user experience is far from ideal. The best example is the recent survey taken by J.D. Power, which shows that every fifth attempt at charging in a station was unsuccessful last year, for various reasons such as faulty payment systems, broken cords, software errors, etc. According to another study, which took place in the San Francisco Bay Area, only 72.5% of Electrify America's public chargers were operative in this part of California. With all this in mind, it's clear that it's not just the number of chargers that's problematic, even in states like California, where you have the best infrastructure. It turns out that user experience is far from ideal, and that owning an EV brings so many challenges. The sixth reason is that EVs are unreliable. Another reason why EV sales are slowing down is because we've learned that they're actually significantly less reliable than traditional gas-powered counterparts. According to the latest study by Consumer Reports, which included more than 300,000 vehicles produced between 2000 to 2023, electric cars cause 80% more problems than gas-powered cars. That's completely the opposite compared to what we've been hearing so far. The media has been convincing us that EVs are superior in this aspect and that they require less maintenance. In theory, that makes sense if we consider that electric cars feature fewer parts than gas-powered vehicles. In reality, EVs are still pieces of new technology that need time for polishing. At the moment, there are so many troubles owners have with their EVs. Battery and charging issues are, of course, the first thing that comes to mind. However, EVs suffer from many other malfunctions, especially when it comes to the infotainment system and integration of all those digital controls. There are so many flaws in terms of build quality, with bad alignment, bad assemblies of certain parts, etc. The seventh and final reason is that a radical lifestyle change is required. EVs are stalling because the government is pushing too hard, instead of letting things develop at a natural pace. And when it comes to natural pace, we're thinking about the fact that people need time to accept new circumstances. They need to accept the new reality, which requires a complete change of their lifestyles. Owning an EV is a completely different thing compared to owning a gas-powered car, starting from the most typical thing that comes to mind: charging. It requires more detailed planning, and it's way more time-consuming compared to gas-powered cars. That's not all. EVs bring a completely different way of ownership. First of all, maintenance is completely different, and by the way, things are currently developing. It'll be a lot more about software updates than oil changes and similar things, and that's something dealers struggle with a lot already. EVs are sitting at dealer lots and waiting for repair because of the most bizarre software issues, and once the warranty expires, owners may expect things to get even more complicated. For several reasons, EVs are more expensive to repair, starting from the eternal worry about the cost of battery replacement. All in all, EV ownership is more complicated, and that's what owners get in return for the premium prices they're paying. As mentioned, EVs are still notably more expensive than gas-powered cars, but the story doesn't end there. Due to potential high repair costs and several other factors, the insurance premiums are also significantly higher compared to internal combustion cars. Then, there's the resale value issue, as price depreciation is much faster with EVs. For all these things, average consumers are not delighted with the idea of purchasing an EV. They hesitate, and until car makers and the government figure out the key issues, EVs will continue to pile up on dealer lots. If you found this video informative, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Do you see a path forward for widespread electric vehicle adoption in the coming years? Let us know your thoughts on the current state of electric vehicles in the comments below. Thank you for watching.